Welcome to our first Oktana talk. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Rosa, I'm from Lima, Peru. Today we're going to talk about how can you transform your developer career. But first you will wonder, what exactly is Oktana? Oktana specializes in custom design and development across the Salesforce platform. Our mission is to enable companies to understand and leverage Salesforce technology to deliver the best customer experience. Currently, we have offices across Peru, Uruguay, Paraguay, Bolivia, West Virginia, and recently Ecuador. And today we are here with one of our Salesforce experts. He's Wesley from our office in West Virginia. Welcome, Wesley.
Thanks, Rosa. Good to be here. My name, like Rosa said, is Wesley Dyke. I'm a software engineer on Salesforce with Oktana. I've been working in Salesforce for about 3 years now. I got into software engineering more recently, and that was a lot of fun transitioning. But when I started in Salesforce, I was actually a BA admin working on kind of requirement solicitation, more of the interfacing with the users. So I've been with Oktana about 5 months now, and it's been great.
And well, I think everybody wants to know how you become a Salesforce developer.
So I became a Salesforce developer. It just kind of fell on my lap there. I was going to school for software engineering, and this opportunity arose, and it's something that I've really enjoyed in the past. I'm really into like automation and improving business processes, and so that Salesforce niche really fit in with that.
How would you describe Salesforce?
I would describe Salesforce as, at a basic level, it's like Excel sheets, but with like automation built on top of it, access control, and then it has like, imagine if you had pre-built solutions for like marketing and sales CRM, customer support, and there's a whole bunch of other pre-built solutions on Salesforce. And also imagine if that data was integrated to a whole bunch of different apps, and you start to get an idea of what Salesforce can do. But it's more than that, though. It's not just a place to hold data and manage it. It's also a robust development platform that you can build everything from like websites to mobile apps and web applications. There's a whole bunch you can do with Salesforce.
And related to Salesforce, what was the hardest and easiest thing to understand about this world?
Some of the harder parts of Salesforce, like getting into Salesforce, the hard part for me was all the features in Salesforce. Just learning like the platform basics took a good time to get used to and up to speed with. Salesforce has its own programming languages, like Apex, which is more like a Java-based language, and with that you can do like the back-end automation pieces, kind of server-side code, and work with your data. And then on the front side, they also have languages to work with UI, UX, to build out components and all that kind of stuff, to customize the platform that way. And then they also have their own like SOQL. It's or SOQL, however you say it, but it's Salesforce's version of SQL. And so really jumping into all that at once is a lot to take in, but it was good. And then you kind of add in on top of that the manual configuration of the platform, like clicking through and getting familiar with all the different settings and permissions that are available to the platform. And it's a lot to take in. But some of the easier parts, as I've been going through Salesforce, some of the easier parts, they have done a great job of abstracting some of those more difficult development pieces to really make it a good user experience and a development platform that is agile. so they have pre-built solutions and integrated solutions for authentication, web callouts, accessing your database, and they have all sorts of other things that are already built into the platform, like even AI and Internet of Things. Like those are all pieces, and you only have to know at a high level how to interface with those as a developer or as an admin or someone using the Salesforce platform. You can do a lot really quickly without having to have a real deep knowledge of how things are actually working underneath the covers. And so I thought that was pretty cool about Salesforce.
Yes, and I know Salesforce allow you to follow different career paths, but like which one in your case, what is the route you want to take?
So like I said, in my background, I'm more developer, more recently with a bigger background in like BA and admin. I really enjoyed pieces of the BA and admin part, like working with the end users and seeing some of their troubles and solutioning. That was a lot of fun. But I've also enjoyed more of the like understanding what is possible with code and efficiencies and that kind of stuff. So I think a good balance between those things, like looking in the long term, would probably be like an application architect or something where you're interfacing with clients still and working on solutions, maybe working on like design documentation. I think that is kind of like long term, but right now, getting my feet wet in the developer position and getting to know that better is where I'm focusing.
Yes, I'm talking about the Salesforce certification. What did you choose Salesforce Platform Developer 1? What was your goal?
It was really in line with my education, because I did get a bachelor's degree in software engineering, and so I wanted to kind of go that way with my Salesforce career, and so that's what got me pursuing the Dev 1 cert. And I've really enjoyed programming, like I said, automation, and most of that, the automation bit, you can do automation without code on Salesforce, but you're kind of limited in what you can do. And as far as like who your employer is, code is more on the larger end, more enterprise level. So that's what got me going for Dev.
And how did you prepare for this certification? Because I know like they have like different parts, right?
Yep.
For the exam.
Yep. So in the certification, there's actually, you have them listed there, the Salesforce fundamentals is a piece, data modeling and management, process automation and logic, the user interface and testing and debugging. The exam, I took it online proctored, which I think is the only way you can take it nowadays, at least in the US. But yeah, anyways, the Salesforce fundamentals piece kind of goes over like the platform knowledge and basics of that. And then data modeling and management is more like accessing and interfacing with your data, process automation and logic. This part actually deals with both pieces. So you'll have to have a working knowledge of those other ways that I said you can automate without doing code. That plays into some of this, and knowing when to use the different tools, the process automation tools. So that's, like it shows there, it's the biggest chunk, followed by user interface, which is the next biggest piece of Salesforce programming, which is like your user interface pieces of Lightning Web Components, Aura Components, Visual Force Pages. These are all like user interaction. It's more of like their frameworks of how to display and interact with that information as a user. And then those last pieces of testing, debugging, and deployment. There's a few different ways to do that stuff within Salesforce, and they cover that. And they cover all the different, it's all like multiple choice.
Also, guys, if you want to know more about this certification, we have an article on our website. Here is the link if you want to read more. Also, I know you can train on Trailhead, right?
Yep. So Trailhead is Salesforce's learning resource. It's free. You can go on there, anyone can make an account. You can kind of, they give you like sandbox environments where you can go in and mess around with the settings, and they give you step-by-step tutorials on almost everything in the platform. And almost, there's a lot of topics it covers that are even outside of Salesforce, the platform itself. But that was one of the main tools I used for preparing for the certification. They have those 2 trails there. If you go on to Trailhead, you can find those 2 preparing for your dev cert, and those are really focused, and they're good for. I think they'd work for both. If you have a development background, you'll have an easier time picking this up. If you are coming in from more of like a BA standpoint or a non-technical role, then I would recommend kind of maybe starting with admin or platform developer if you haven't really messed with coding or SQL in the past. But Dev 1's a good place to start if you're already developing in other systems and you're just looking to move into Salesforce.
Yes. So did you recommend this certification?
Yeah, like I said, I think if you were a developer doing other work and wanted to get into Salesforce, I think Dev 1 is a great starting point for that. If you weren't really into development work, it'll probably take you longer if you're trying to get into Dev. But if you're just looking to get into Salesforce in general, and you're not a developer, then I would recommend going either that admin or that platform app builder. I think you'd get a lot of benefit out of that, and you might be able to hit the ground running faster with that than you would with this. But I think as far as like development goes, if you're a developer, this is your starting point with Salesforce.
So what are your favorite projects until now?
I've worked on a lot of different projects within Salesforce, and from a few different sections there. So as a BA, I worked on like putting design documentation together for email to quote automation through Salesforce. That was a lot of fun. Being able to use like the email to case and those types of features. And then we've built vendor invoicing solutions where it saved our accounting department from receiving paper invoices and going to like electronic invoices that are submitted through a vendor invoicing portal. And then I've worked on other smaller pieces like process improvements and smaller pieces of automation. I've also built out customer self-service websites for like order tracking and case management. All of those are great examples of what you can do in Salesforce. And as you can tell, they're kind of like, they're not like specific pieces. It's kind of jumping around all over the place on like what you're actually doing, but it's not, I wouldn't have been able to do that outside of Salesforce. It would have taken a lot more time to get familiar with everything I needed to be able to provide that much value to a business without Salesforce. So
yeah, and I think great because you can learn about different industries.
Yep. Yeah.
Well,
since I
certification. Oh yes.
Oh, I was going to say that was a good point because I come from like an oil and gas background, and working with Oktana, it's been kind of cool working for an agency instead of just an enterprise company, to be able to get exposed to a bunch of different industries. So that was pretty cool.
Your next certification will be Salesforce Developer 2.
Yep. So that's kind of where I'm going next. Since I don't have a whole lot of long-standing experience as a developer, I want to make sure I'm working actively on improving myself in that area, and I feel Dev 2 is in line with that. And then after that, I'll probably probably go for like data modeling and management and access, record level access certifications.
What would you say to a person who is beginning to be interested in Salesforce?
I'd say go for it. Salesforce has been a lot of fun. It's in demand. It's growing year over year. And so I don't think you'd have a problem. Like if you were looking at Salesforce as a career option, I think there's definitely the demand. And if that's something you're interested in, you're headed in the right direction. So definitely recommend it.
Well, that's great. Finally, how have you been your first months working here at Oktana? Have you been able to apply everything you have learned?
Yes. and working with Oktana, the first little bit, I went through their onboarding and training programs, and those were pretty cool. I got exposed to a lot of different pieces of Salesforce that I hadn't as a BA and as an admin. And then I really enjoyed working with the teams. I work mainly with the West Virginia team, but I've also interfaced with a few of the other offices, and all the resources are great. They're knowledgeable, they're experienced, they have they're interested in what you want, and they're willing to help you out and answer questions. It's been a great experience so far.
Well, thanks, Wesley. Well, if you're looking for new job opportunities, you can check our website. We are always seeking for new developers, testers, so you can check our open positions there. And I think we have a couple minutes for some Q&A. So if someone have any question for Wesley, please just let us know. Let's see if anyone have some questions. Okay, here we have some. Aside from Trailhead, are there any web platforms to sharpen Salesforce skills?
There are. If you're looking for like practice tests, there's quite a few different resources. I've used Focus on Force before, and I think there's like salesforceben.com and a few other blogs, and like that's another thing about Salesforce is the learning resources and community are all over the place. If you like in a good way, you're not going to have a shortage of documentation and things that people have ran into. So I'd say it's very rare that you're running into issues that haven't already been raised. So I don't know if that.
Yes, sorry, continue.
I was going to say I don't know if that answered your question, but yeah, if you were studying for the Dev 1 cert, I'd start maybe with one of those practice questions, the practice quizzes on Trailhead, and then from there move to you could just Google practice tests Salesforce Developer 1, but Focus on Force has been a good resource for me in the past.
Then we have, what is the difference between Salesforce Admin and Salesforce Developer?
It really depends on the company you're working for. Like when I was looking for jobs, a lot of places said they needed an admin, but they listed development opportunities. But the main difference is an admin is more clicks, like you're going in and you're configuring the platform through settings and through managing data and that kind of stuff, whereas the developer is more on the automation and solution, like actually delivering bits of functionality, like extending the functionality of the platform. That's kind of the breaking point of when a task no longer can be done by an admin because it needs to have code in order to extend the platform's functionality or behave in a different way than the platform has out of the box. So as an admin, you're probably going to spend most of your time either installing packages from like third-party vendors that have pre-built solutions, or you're going to be doing user administration, setting up users, resetting passwords, building out reports. You're going to be doing, you're going to make sure that the user interface and all the apps are set up correctly. So there's a lot you can do as an admin. As a developer, you're more going to be heads down doing doing development work. It's not too much different than other dev work you'd see, but there is kind of a mesh point, and depending on the company you're working with, there could be a very thin line.
Okay, and then we have many questions for you, Wesley. We have another one. How is the usual day? How is the usual day-to-day work for a Salesforce developer?
More recently, my day kind of looks like I'll get on in the morning. I will usually have some tasks that are assigned to me. I try and button up a few things before our stand-up, and then I'll have a stand-up meeting where I review my progress and the progress of the team, and then I'll continue working with meetings, intermittent meetings to kind of confirm requirements or to get clarifications or provide status updates. But for the most part, heads down, coding away.
Then we have, how long would it take for someone with no experience in Salesforce to get their Dev 1 certification? Do you have an estimate about that?
That's hard to say. I mean, it depends on your background. For me, I was in the platform for a little over a year before I got mine, but you could totally get it faster than that if you were studying directly for Dev 1 and that's what you went for. When I first started, I was kind of on the admin BA track, and so I got my Platform App Builder cert before I actually got my Platform Developer 1 cert. And so I mean, if you were realistically fresh to Salesforce and started studying, I mean, I'd say if you devoted 2 to 3 hours of study a day, you would probably be ready to take it in a month. So you can kind of do the math there. If you only do an hour or something, it might take you a little bit, a few months, but that's what I would say based on my experience. I know some people come in and get it right out the gate, but
yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Then we have, well, someone said, currently I am studying for the Platform Developer 1. In which of the topics do you recommend me to focus more?
So the way the quiz works is the questions are weighted. So those sections that say, like in that slide that we showed where it had like the pie chart and their process automation and user interface, those pieces were close to like 75%. And you only need 60 something. I can't remember. I think it's 65, 67%. I'm not sure right offhand what you need to pass, but it's around that. It's around that 65, 67 mark. You only need that much to pass. So I'm not saying tank the other sections, but if you really focus on the process automation and the user interface pieces, and then really focus on those pieces, that'll give you a solid foundation and kind of give you a little bit more wiggle room with the other parts. But that's where I would focus, is that process automation, really understanding within Salesforce, like workflows, flows, process builder, and then understanding your triggers. And then on the user interface, making understanding how your visual for, sorry, your markup talks with your JavaScript, talks with your controllers. That's probably the best. Those are the sections I would recommend really knowing before you head into the quiz. I didn't pass it the first time. I had to take it again the second time, but those are the parts that. And I think if you take it a second time, it's cheaper. So there's that.
Yes, thanks. And then we have, let's see, if I know Python, it would help me to understand easier Salesforce Developer.
I mean, if you know Python, you know the basic like programming pieces. Python is really, it's different than Apex, and so you're still gonna have to learn the syntax around Apex, which is the Salesforce coding language, but you'll still have the basic understanding of like loops, variables, that kind of stuff. So you'll be faster, but I think there's still kind of a learning curve there, since Python is different than Apex, and there's a lot of things that you'll be learning that are Salesforce specific. So I think it really just depends on what scale you're looking at. If you're looking at an enterprise scale, there's different patterns of development that you'd get into, whereas kind of the smaller scale, you're not having to worry about as many troubles that would come with larger orgs. So that's just something else to take into account. But I think Python would be a good, like if you have Python experience, it'll help you with learning Apex, but there's still some things to learn.
Yes. And then they said, we have another one. I'm starting my career as a QA engineer tester. However, I'm very interested on Salesforce. It is difficult for someone like working in the quality assurance area to start with Salesforce.
So Salesforce has QA stuff in, like, there's a bunch of testing and stuff like that. You could sorry, I'm not. When I worked in oil and gas as a BA, I kind of did cradle to grave development on a lot of different things. So I think having a QA background and getting into Salesforce would give you that technical edge. I know a lot of people that are non-technical kind of struggle with the basic concepts of how things are interacting on the back end with the data piece, but any sort of kind of better understand. I think the QA would help with being more familiar with the fundamentals of the Salesforce platform. And I'm not sure, there's two sides to that. There's code testing, which, that's more programmatic. You're writing tests and running them through there. Or, there's the user testing where you're going through and making the clicks that way. So depending on which side of quality assurance you're on, that it would kind of depict on where you would start. If you were on the code side, I'd say you're probably on a good path to Dev 1. If you're on the click side, I'd probably start looking with admin, or if you really want in Dev, then you can do it, but that's not where I started.
And finally, we have, do you need a Salesforce certification to join the team?
Oktana specifically hires before you get your cert. They have a training program, and they actually have like a training outline for you to run through to get your Dev 1 cert. And they have different tracks, like if you're looking at BA, developer, like project management kind of stuff. There's a few different tracks that they have trainings for. But I know in the West Virginia office, we've recently hired quite a few developers, even if they were fresh or right out of school, or had no experience with Salesforce. The Oktana team has done a great job of onboarding them and providing them that training experience, and actually helped them get their certs. So that's been pretty cool. I had my certs when I came to Oktana, but I've seen a lot of our team be able to come on board and get put on projects pretty quick within Salesforce with the support Oktana has. So yeah, I wouldn't let that stop you from applying if you don't have your cert.
Well, thanks for your time. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, see you next time.
Yeah, see you guys. Thanks
Bye.
for coming.